scary travel folktale. I still hear the wailing. It's been years, but when I close my eyes at night, I can still hear it. The sound of crying, mixed with something else. A voice that shouldn't have been there. This happened when I was in university. In Nigeria, students always look forward to the holidays. It's a time to leave the stress of school behind and return home to family, good food, and freedom. But that year, something terrible happened, something that made me believe in things I never took seriously before. It was the end of the semester, and everyone was preparing to leave. My best friend, Tonji, was excited. He hadn't been home in months, and he couldn't wait to see his mother. We had just finished our last exam, and as we left the hall, a lecturer stopped us. "Make sure you prayed before traveling," he said. Tonji laughed. "Sir, we always pray." The lecturer shook his head. "I mean it. I had a bad dream last night. Please, pray." We nodded, but honestly, we didn't think much of it. Everyone in Nigeria says things like that. Warnings, dreams, and superstitions are normal. We were young, and we thought we had time for everything. The night before we traveled, a few of us gathered in the hostel, talking about the journey home. There were about 6 of us in the room. Tonji, myself, and a few other guys. Some were traveling to Lagos, some to Enugu, and a few of us to Osun State. We joked, shared snacks, and talked about our holiday plans. I remember someone saying, "Make sure you pray before you sleep," but most of us were too tired to bother. I should have prayed. The journey started early the next morning. Tonji and I took the same bus, a 14-seater heading toward Osun. It was one of those small buses that move fast but feel like they could fall apart at any time. The driver was in a hurry, but that was normal. A few hours into the trip, I started feeling uneasy. The road was too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you check your surroundings twice. Even the driver, who had been playing loud music earlier, turned it off. Then, the crying started. At first, it was faint, like it was coming from far away. I thought it was a baby, but as it got louder, I realized it was something else. It wasn't just crying. It was wailing, deep and painful. The kind that makes your stomach turn. The driver slowed down. Everyone in the bus looked at each other, confused. The sound was coming from ahead, just around a bend in the road. Tonji shifted in his seat. "What is that?" he whispered. Then we saw them. Figures stood in the middle of the road, blocking our path. They were covered in something dark, like wet cloth clinging to their bodies. Their faces weren't clear, but their mouths were open, wailing. The driver hit the brakes so hard we almost flew forward. Someone in the back screamed. Tonji grabbed my arm, his fingers digging into my skin. The wailing got louder. The figures started moving toward us, slow but steady. The driver panicked. He threw the bus into reverse, but as soon as he did, something hit the roof. Hard. I swear to you, I have never been so scared in my life. The bus rocked, and everyone screamed. The driver shouted prayers, his hands shaking on the steering wheel. Tonji was muttering under his breath, his eyes squeezed shut. The wailing was inside the bus now, like it had seeped through the walls. Then, the bus swerved. The driver lost control. I heard a loud crash, and everything went black. When I woke up, I was lying on the roadside. My head was pounding, and my body felt sore. The bus was wrecked, turned on its side. People were groaning, some still inside. And then I saw Tonji. He wasn't moving. I crawled to him, shaking him, calling his name. But he didn't wake up. The driver was crying, Others were screaming for help, but all I could see was my friend, lying too still on the ground. By the time help arrived, it was too late. Tunji was gone. Later, I found out that others had survived with injuries, but only Tunji had died. His mother said something that made my skin crawl. She told me she had been uneasy the night before. She had wanted to call him, to tell him to pray, but she had ignored the feeling. I don't know what we saw that day. I don't know if it was a warning, a spirit, or something worse. But I do know one thing, we should have prayed. Now, whenever I travel, I don't joke with prayer. I don't care if people laugh. I don't care if they say it's unnecessary. Because I still hear the wailing. And I